How do you show respect to your wife?
Yeah. Oh, all sorts of ways. I basically give her whatever the hell she wants. I adore her. But here's the thing. The reason that I do this is because if I say, this is what ultimately is going to happen, that's the last word in it, and I don't even want to have the f***ing conversation, we don't. Now, she may really want to, and I can tell sometimes that she really does, but I don't fucking care because it's my decision ultimately.
So you don't care about how she feels?
No, I didn't say I didn't care how she feels. I just don't care to have her question my authority, autonomy over the marriage.
Was there initial conversation prior to that, or is it just like, we're doing this, don't ask me about it?
Depends on the context.
I would say more for like bigger decisions in life, not necessarily like little things.
Even larger decisions, if ultimately, let's say I went home and I said, we're moving to Nevada in 3 weeks, get your bags packed, and I'm not going to have I don't want to hear a word about it. You're doing it, and that's the way it's going.
And you think that's respectful?
I think that ultimately it's my choice.
Okay,
and how she shows me respect. Yeah, that's how she shows me respect.
Okay, let's get reactions, starting with you.
Truthfully, honestly, if he is like paying for everything and she has no job and like she's a like traditional like wife, you have no say. He literally found you a different,
all sorts of ways.
Wait, what?
Highly successful celebrated author who makes a bunch of money.
Oh yeah, see? Yeah. Just move to Nevada, babe. It's probably a bigger house. Just move.
No, her.
She is. Oh.
Yeah, number one in her category. I mean, at least she was for a couple of years number one in her category. And then you know what I do? I take her cash and I spend it on guns. I just take it right out of her hand. Her royalty is mine, and I go spend it on guns.
I mean, you made it pretty clear in the beginning. You give her what she needs and what she wants. So I don't see an issue.
Looking at them.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
I think relationships should be a group discussion, but biblically, like, it makes sense. I agree, but I always think that, some kind of input should be appreciated, and I know at least I would want that in my marriage, and if that's how it works for you, Andrew, that's great, but that's kind of just a personal thing.
What if there's just a disagreement, and there's been input given from both sides? Who's the tiebreaker? The husband or the wife?
I guess it depends on the relationship that you're in and how you guys determine that together.
It's a Christian biblical marriage.
Yeah. So
what about for yours personally?
Personally, right now I'm not in a relationship, but I think I would
wait. Be quiet back there, please.
I really value my future husband's opinion, and I definitely take that into consideration, but at the same time, I think there also needs to be consideration for everybody's health and well-being and thoughts in the relationship. And so while I do respect your opinion on that, I think there also needs to be, you always need to acknowledge people's opinions because that's how you facilitate a healthy relationship, whether it's biblical or not.
I disagree. I think going into the marriage, you can take into account if this is going to be a man who's going to take care of you, but once that decision is made, you're putting things in his hands. Now, for you and even for me, picking a man who you know will take into account your thoughts, feelings, opinions is important. Like he said, if there's a disagreement and your input has been given, if the man has made a decision, you chose him as your husband, so I would say you have to submit.
Cool. I love that's your opinion. That's great.
Okay. Andrew, I actually, I have a question for you, Andrew, on this, but I want to get some more feedback from the rest of the guests on this. Your reaction to the video. You're married, you're Christian. Your thoughts.
So, Andrew, I think you're hopefully exaggerating how you would tell your wife to get the bags and pack up and go move somewhere.
No exaggeration.
No exaggeration. Well, I think you're being a jerk about it then. But
so
I do agree.
To be a jerk too.
You what?
It's my prerogative to be a jerk too.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's biblical. No, I do.
I mean, you're non-denominational. Who cares what you think is biblical?
No, I'm not a denominational because I follow the Bible. So I do agree with you though.
Made it up 300 years ago version of the Bible.
No.
Took books out of the Bible, but
no.
Okay, go ahead.
No. But no, I think that I do agree with you to an extent. I do think that the Bible does place the husband in a role where he is supposed to have the final authority. But I do think in a healthy biblical marriage, part of a husband loving his wife is having a discussion and taking her
Keep going.
Sorry. And taking her input into consideration while still making that final decision. But no, I think just ignoring anything she has to say isn't loving. I think you should absolutely listen.
That's not what the clip said. What did the clip say? Clip didn't say that you ignore everything they say.
Well,
The ultimate authority revolves around the man. So if it did come down to a situation where I said, listen, this is going to happen, and I'm not looking for objections, and I'm not looking for input because this is important. You just need to do what I'm telling you to do. That's exactly what she needs to do.
Well, if there's obviously, like, if the house is burning down, yes, you should.
Not if the house is burning down, even on a major life decision. Who is the head of the family biblically? Who's the head?
It's absolutely the husband. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't take input. I cannot think of a situation where you would not want, where you should not take input from your wife.
Let's break this down and see if this is correct. In a marriage, right, the body of the church is represented by the woman, and the head, the Christ head, is represented by the man. Jesus Christ told you to do something. Would you do it? Or would you go, you need to take my input first?
If it was urgent, obviously, I would do it right then and there. Like, again, if the house is burning down and my husband...
if Christ told you to do something...
Can I finish? Can I finish?
What? Yeah, go ahead.
So if my husband says the house is burning down, we need to go now, I'm going to get up and go, and I'm not going to question anything.
That wasn't my question. Please answer my question. Here's my question.
I'm not done talking, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but listen, if you begin to talk to answer a question I didn't ask, I am going to cut in and re-ask the question because you're not answering the question I asked you.
You're just making excuses for talking over me.
Do you believe that the woman is the representation of the body of the church, and that the man is a representation of the head, which is the Christ head, as Paul lays down for his marriage prescription? Do you believe that that is the case?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the husband is supposed to be the head, but he should still...
And if the man is the head, if that is the case, if the man is the head and is the reflection of the Christ head, what situation would you ever be in where you would question Christ?
It's not questioning I'm not questioning Christ.
Then you're supposed to obey the representation of the Christ head, as Paul says, submit to your husbands as you would unto the Lord.
And for the record, there are times where I sometimes think it's healthy to talk to God and be like, hey, I don't know how I feel about this, and maybe pray about things. And so it's not like always, it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to give input. Like, I have a conversation with God, and sometimes I obviously I follow Christ, but that doesn't mean that you can't always provide input. And I think that it's healthy in a marriage for a husband to listen to their wife, obviously, and not
dispute, though. We're not disputing that it's healthy or unhealthy for a husband to accept input from his wife.
No, I'm not saying you have to accept.
Is authority. Yes, exactly. We're disputing authority. So if it is a case, the husband has authority and refuses input from his wife on certain situations, he's supposed to have the authority to do so, yes or no.
Right, no. I absolutely agree. He does not have to accept input. He needs to listen. He should listen to what she has to say.
He doesn't need to listen.
You should absolutely have a conversation about big things. Obviously, if it's an urgent thing.
It's up to the head.
It is, and at the end of the day, yes. But I don't think it's truly loving your wife if you are making decisions because she might have valuable input to add to the conversation that might change his decision, his final decision.
Perhaps she even does. But it's not up to her, is it?
Right. No, I never said it was up to her.
Yeah,
all I'm saying is...
So if it's up to the authority, if it's up to him and he doesn't want input, you would have to back that up by your own logic as saying that's rational, reasonable, and biblical.
No, absolutely. I have continued to say he does not have to necessarily agree with her input, but you're saying, that's why I clarified at the beginning, are you exaggerating about going in and telling your wife, we're moving in 3 weeks now, let's go? Or are you actually going in and saying, hey, I think we should move in 3 weeks, what do you think about that? And you do not have to listen. You do not have to listen to her input, but you should be loving to your wife and care about what she thinks.
That's not loving. Listen, first of all, it's not unloving for you in a position of authority in the head of your household to make unilateral decisions on behalf of the wealth of your family, or the health and wealth of your family. That is your decision, ultimately, as the head, the representation of the Christ head. What you're spouting is feminist nonsense. You're trying to dispute authority, male patriarchal authority within a Christian setting by saying this: the husband ought to still, even in a situation where he is unilaterally, as the head of the household, deciding what the decision needs to be, should still take input from his wife, even if he said, in this particular case, whatever the context is, I don't want input. It's just necessary that we do this.
I
right?
have a question.
If he is the authority, if he is truly the authority from your worldview, you need to respect and obey his authority and submit to it. Correct?
I agree, but if you are if you're making decisions and being a jerk about it and not listening in cases, obviously, again, I will reinstate.
What makes it jerk behavior? What makes it?
Because you're making a decision and not caring about what she has to say. I'm not saying you have to agree. That does. I don't know what marriage you're in that you do not have discussions about important life events with your wife. Why you don't care. But no, that was your whole argument, is that you were deciding.
You're using an extremist argument. So what I'm saying is this: there can be situations in which you, as the authority, the ultimate authority, autonomy, the head of your household, the representation of the Christ head, as whom the wife is to obey and submit as she would unto the Lord, okay, can say, I do not want any questioning of any kind, nor to even have a conversation about this. I simply want my will in this for the family executed.
But what if you're not doing the Lord's will?
Hang on. Your job as a wife is to submit and obey that authority. Now, to say that, well, husbands, they should take input from their wives, nobody's disputing that. Husbands almost always take input from their wives. They almost always discuss decisions between themselves and their wives. But there could be instances where they choose not to and have valid reasons, and it's not for you to concern yourself with those reasons. It's for you as a woman representing the Christian aspect, the female aspect, the body, to submit to his authority. That was the Christian.
That was my whole point, that there might be valid reasons. Like if my husband said, there's a fire, we need to get out. I'm not going to question him. I'm going to get up and get out, even if I don't see the fire. You literally cannot let anyone talk.
Emergency, though. I'm talking about whatever it is that he is deciding unilaterally is that important that he wants to have zero discussion on. Your job is to obey.
What are situations where he would not want input? Okay.
It's up to him.
Then let's talk.
Leader, not
Well, that's the issue. Is I'm talking about how, hey, that might be a sign that maybe you're a jerk husband if you're in because I can't think of any situation.
I think maybe it's a sign that you're a controlling wife who wants equal authority with your husband.
I never said equal authority. You are making stuff up.
Decisions to unilaterally lead you when he thinks that he needs to control and have authority over whatever the situation is. Maybe you're just a controlling wife. Maybe you're a wife who just doesn't trust your husband's leadership. Maybe you're a bad Christian wife who doesn't trust your husband's leadership and won't submit to his authority because if he says unilaterally, I have the authority, we need to do this, and you need to obey, then your job is to submit.
I want
you wanted to come in, so we'll have you come in.
What if he's not following the Lord's will? What if he's going directly against what they believe, the wife believes is not the Lord's will, and she's meant to submit to Christ before you?
So who's the representation inside of the church? I don't know about you, but inside of the church, we have things called bishops, priests, things like this. This has always been the case that a wife could stray away from fulfilling wifely duties or husbandly duties based around various aspects of their Christian faith. When that happens, there's a redress of the ecclesiastical authority of the church, who often will step in and do things like counseling, assist with these problems, help them remove themselves from error. Now, secularists always laugh when you say this, but what's so hilarious is they demand the exact same thing. They demand a governmental seized authority which can step in to assist them with the same types of problems. Marriage counseling, psychology, divorce courts, child custody agreements. They're asking for the same thing. They're asking for an authority to step in and assist with the moderation of problems which may arise in that marriage dynamic. Christians have the exact same recourse. Is it possible that a husband could ask you to do something outside of the realm of reason, right? In some rare instances, sure, but you have redress there. There's higher authorities that you can move within the church to get redress to know that you're doing the right thing or not. Now, most of the time, the likelihood is that inside of the traditional churches, the priest is probably going to say, you need to obey your husband. And a lot of women are resistant to that. That's why in Orthodoxy you see such a split between the sexes. In Catholicism and in Protestantism, not so much. Women are the majority, but women are the ones who are the most resistant to the idea of the submission to the husband.
You had something, Abigail? Or
I mean, I think what he's been saying is pretty well said. When we go back to the original video that brought up this discussion, they asked him, like, do you consult your wife? And he said that, I mean, he even said just now that he doesn't dispute that a man should consult a wife and listen to her opinion, but he made it very clear that it's situational. And if he says that this is what's going to happen and I don't care to hear questioning, then ideally if you chose a good man and you chose to marry this man, then if he's not wanting to hear your questioning, he's probably got a good reason as to why.
Well, what would be one of those reasons? What would be a reason why you wouldn't want to hear?
It's not your place to question that, though.
Right, it's not
Right, but I'm talking about how that's an issue on the guy's part. Like, hey, why are you not willing to hear input from the person that you care about?
I don't think that's in dispute, though.
Yeah, he already said it. It's situational.
But yes, what can we even think of a situation where there would be a reason to not?
Well, this is the problem, right? So think of it like you would in the military. Think that you were in the military for a second, and there was a general. And the general, right, being a good leader is, sometimes that's going to require a discussion with the soldiers who are beneath your chain of command in order for you to make good decisions based around, the various executions of what you need to do in the battlefield, absent the battlefield, things like this. But if a general comes in and says, I don't really want to hear your opinions, execute your duties and shut your mouth, you really don't have any recourse against that, right? Because he's in authority. The question is not this. Hang on, before you rebut about whether or not a marriage is this or that. We're talking about this from the frame of a Christian purview. What is the frame in a Christian worldview, right? Not from a secularist worldview, in which your feelings get hurt and so you get mad and you don't like doing it, blah, 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 blah. But rather, what are your duties to Christ and what are your duties to your husband? What I'm saying is that whatever the situation is, right, that you would consider rational or irrational, one thing I came up with is he feels the need to move jobs. Now, perhaps he has a type of wife that can instill doubt in him, right? And he doesn't, for this particular case, want any sort of doubt. She's not a bad person. She usually reinforces what he says, but maybe this decision, he just feels like consulting her for some reason, not the best idea. It's ultimately up to him and his authority and for her to be obedient to his claim of authority. That's ultimately what a Christian marriage is.
Right, but can you think of a situation where that would be necessary? That's the thing.
I just did.
He just gave a situation.
Right, no, I know the whole and when there's a general and everything in charge, but the whole thing that brought this whole up is a situation of we're moving in.
I gave you a specific situation for moving.
Well,
just
no,
now. I don't know.
Yeah, I still don't get why you can't afterwards
Wait,
have
hold
a
on.
conversation.
I got one. Let's take her. She was in a relationship with a man. I know there was a component of there's a mismatch when it came to he was a Mormon, you're non-denominational Christian. She didn't want to have kids yet. She wanted to be boss babe. And I asked her, well, would you continue working if your husband was capable of providing for you and your family? And your husband said, I don't want you to keep working. I'm making enough money to support the family. I want you to 100% focus. I know you want to work. I know it fulfills you in some way, but we're married. I'm the husband. I don't want you to work. I want 100% of your attention on our children and the household and me. Is that a satisfactory example?
No, because I think you can still have a conversation about that. You don't have to listen to what she has to the input, but I think it's still good.
Conversation at all.
Yeah, if you're not going to listen, then the conversation is.
Well, I think that's the issue. I think you should be open to what obviously there are situations where, yes, it's important to make that decision.
Okay, but so let me ask you.
You're usurping authority from the husband. Listen, I want to show you the contradiction in your worldview so that you can understand it. When you say, you, the husband who is the leader and the authority in my Christian marriage who I have submitted to, need to do X, you are usurping his very role as the leader you're demanding him to be. So when you say, you need to accept X input or X thing from me, when he says, no, I do not, and in this case, this is for the betterment of the household and family, it is not for you to question. If you usurp that, hang on, you are in what is called the role of Satan, right? You're usurping the authority from what you call the Christ head. Not kidding, this is the Christian worldview. The idea that the man is the representation of the Christ head in the marriage. If you're going against the authority of the Christ head, what is that other than satanic? You tell me.
I'm not saying I wouldn't listen to him. I'm saying that it's healthy to have conversations about things.
But okay, let me ask you this. Hold on. I know you guys are raising your hands. I'll get you guys in just a sec. So when you say have a conversation, I don't think Andrew is disputing that the husband can counsel. Hold on. The husband can counsel with his wife, get input from her. But how many subsequent conversations and disagreements and eventually fights do we need to have before the husband gets his will?
Well, it doesn't have to be a fight. It can be a conversation.
Okay, but so here, let me role play this. I don't want you to go to work. I want you to stay at home with our kids.
Okay, we can have a conversation about how.
But how much do you need to? Are you going to just nag me until I bend to your will?
No.
Okay, but how many conversations need to take place?
It depends on the.
Can it be just one? Is just one conversation okay?
Yeah, as long as there's no follow-up needed. Yeah.
But so what? Hold on. So what if the determination on my part is okay, cool. I heard all your inputs. You made a PowerPoint presentation. Here's why I want to work. Here's why I want to work. I'm going to be able to I'm going to be happier, and it's going to be a financial benefit to the family because I'm going to be making X amount of additional money, and we can go to the Bahamas, whatever it is. And I'm going to listen there and sit there. I'm not going to interrupt you. You can give me your PowerPoint presentation for why you should be a boss babe when I want to have kids and a family and want you to stay at home, and I can provide. I've listened to it. Wait, hold on. I've listened to it, and I'm like, thank you for sharing. Nah. Okay. No. So I say no. Yeah. What's the next step?
Yeah, I would respect that. Absolutely.
Would you respect that?
Yeah, depending on the case, I would.
What do you mean, depending on the case?
If the husband was fully able to provide for my family, and there wasn't going to be any detriment to me not working, and it would only be a benefit to my children, then in that case, yes, I would.
What do you mean a detriment to you not working? Didn't you say there was like some greater calling, fulfillment when it came to you working?
There is fulfillment, and I think I would find that later on in motherhood where like kids are going to school. I could pick that up. This is my personal wants. It doesn't need to match everybody else in this room. But I think that for the time being, if it was at the greater benefit of my kids, me being at home and raising them,